Yo, what's going on, you guys? Hope you're doing well. So welcome to another One Piece review. This time we're covering Manga chapter 1143. And the chapter itself coming out after a 2-week wait should have been enough. But even before this chapter came out, we got another visual. After a month ago, we got the previous visual spoiling another crew in the form of the Revolutionaries possibly making a move. We still don't know what that means. But we got another visual, so we'll talk about that by the end. This chapter itself, I thought was fine. Two things I really liked that Oda did with this chapter. One, we're getting closer to a resolution between Loki and Harudine, which is much needed, especially since we're needing a flashback, which looks like that's where we're gearing up for. So that was the first aspect I really liked about this chapter. The second is Oda gave us much of a explanations he could about the abilities of what's going on with the kids that's been hypnotized or sleepwalking into their doom literally after this chapter. We've got more exposition on the abilities of Killingham right now, which is pretty broken. We got a colour spread, but we also got Luffy, Zoro and Loki, interestingly enough, on the cover of Weekly Shonen Jump. So a lot of people are running with this as a way for Oda hinting at possibly Loki joining the Straw Hats, or this is just people just trolling for the sake of trolling. But I don't think that's the case at all. Loki is going to become an ally of the Straw Hats, especially with what's going on right now, which I've been saying. Oda throwing breadcrumbs about that possibly being the case. But like I said, we've got a colour spread, so the Straw Hats, all 10 of them are there. This is great. It looks like all 10 of them are racing on Fish with the original monster, with the original Straw Hat trio, first, second and third. Zoro and Luffy racing for first place, so I guess that's the fan base as well, clashing. So we dive into this chapter and immediately we get, like I said, we get hints of an explanation. We get a full explanation by the end of what's going on with Killingham's abilities, but we also find out it's a combination of all three Holy Knights, Gunko, Sommers and Killingham, combining their abilities to affect these children. Because we see Sol trying to snap them out of it, but we see a white cloth that's directing them to the Holy Knights, which it seems to be Gunko's. Then we got them in Dreamland, courtesy of Killingham, and when Sol tries to stop them from going any further, he ends up getting pierced, even though Robin warned him not to touch them because of what happened to the other teacher that got messed up. So Sol pays for not listening. He gets pierced with a bunch of thorns. Now, what's interesting about this, apparently we see it, but apparently Chopper and Robin can't because they're immediately saying, "What happened? Did something stab you?" But there's some shady activity going on, and a lot of people seem to think that Angie is somewhat of a traitor, which doesn't make sense because he's literally alerting the rest of the giants on Elbaph to help them out in this situation, because the children are heading straight into no man's land, sleepwalking. So if he was working with the Holy Knights, you would think he would want to keep that to himself. So, but again, anything's possible. There's definitely a possibility of a traitor in the ranks. But speaking of communications, we see Doria Bragi on the other side, but we also see Nami, Jinbei, and Brook. They're also listening in. Now, Nami's the first one to notice this because, first off, kids were mentioned. Secondly, Nami points out there's a fire being spread, so we get a squad of giants going on to try and take care of the fire. They don't get very far because they end up getting slapped by one of the creatures from the kids' nightmares that the children drew, that got brought to life by Killingham. The giants under Ja Rule and Usopp are still getting wasted, so they're joking it up in a serious situation. Nami's to knock it off. You're way too drunk for this. Now, I look at this one of two ways. One, there wasn't a close-up of Usopp in this chapter, so Oda did that deliberately. So it's either one or two things that either Oda is going with Nami to take care of this situation because it's involving children, or Usopp's going to get a role here because they're harping on way too much. They're drunk here. We see now Usopp acted when he was drunk, how he's he literally slapped the sword in Ja Rule's skull. So, and then he was talking about pulling it out, which would have killed him because of the blood loss. So he was acting more brave than he actually does, but actually, but he needs to be sober in order for that to be character development. So I don't know what Oda's doing with Usopp. I'm not worried about Usopp getting a fight because I think that's inevitable. It just depends on who and when. But so it could go to Usopp, and if it does, maybe this is a way for Oda to give Usopp an upgrade because he's not getting Conqueror's Haki. I'm sorry, especially since Sanji hasn't awoken it yet. Then no, but I can definitely see him getting an upgrade to Advanced Observation Haki, just like his dear old Pops, just like Shanks and his Sentia Luffy. This alcohol, it actually does something to trigger an upgrade for Observation Haki, because really Usopp hasn't done anything since Dressrosa, so he needs that. But we're going to find out pretty soon what role they have, because like I said, the squad of giants that went to put out the fire, they didn't get very far because their ship got bitch slapped by the giant skull. That giant skeleton came out like a Friday Nights at Freddy jump scare, literally, because it cuts to like Saint Sommers like, oh, did you get a look on that guy's face, when he got stabbed by my thorns? So this guy has got blood. He's got a perverse way of being sadistic. Saint Sommers in a serious situation, like they're just chilling, eating while this is all going on here. Is the thorn fruit user, so he's able to manipulate thorns, but apparently they can't be seen because otherwise Chopper and Robin won't be asking what stabbed you, Saul. So we got that clarified. We got each of the Holy Knight's Devil Fruit abilities, including Shamrock. We found out what his Devil Fruit is as well. They're going to have to figure a way to restrain the children without actually making contact, but given what the scene does, it kind of reveals there is a way to, as a cheat code, to break the spell that Killingham is using to make the children sleepwalk. While Gunko is munching away through her bandages, she also gives, because she already saw ocean clouds in the village, so they're using that to get away because they're going to materialize a rainbow with a painter, which I think is interesting because that was mentioned when the Straw Hats made their way to Elbaph, that a painter is used to create these rainbows. So that's another element to, like, is there a traitor in the ranks in Elbaph? We see Saint Sommers and Killingham chime in on the conversation, and this is where we get an aspect of Killingham's abilities to a little more detail. So Killingham offers Sommers some salt. As he does that, he literally puts him into dreamland and then wakes him up with salt. So that's the key right there. So smelling salt, so go figure, right? That's what they're going to need to, like, snap the kids out of it. Now I do have a question, well actually I'll get to by the end, about this ability, because it's broken. Because first off, he's a mythical dragon fruit, a dream materializing man, so that's interesting. So he's basically the One Piece version of Sandman, literally, because he's bringing kids' dreams to life in the form of these monsters, and he's able to peer into their dreams, which I guess explains the expression he had. And I referenced this in the previous review about how he had two different expressions in the same panel, one with him being completely passed out and the other completely being awake. And I thought that was interesting. So it looks like he was able to, like, peer into, like, what the kids' nightmares are about and bring them to life. Here we get more of an explanation here, because he did the same thing with Saint Sommers. He literally put him to sleep and then awoke him up with some salt, which he materialized from a cloud out of nowhere. So that's pretty broken. The fact that he's a mythical dragon fruit user, it kind of fits, because the Sandman is pretty much a mythical character, so it goes both ways, so it fits. And this is the part I actually appreciate, because we get more aspects of Gunko's personality, because while they're talking about this, as soon as salt's poured into the meal, then Gunko flares up. So that's another trait of Gunko's personality. Obviously it stands out considering we don't know much about these characters, so when Oda does this, it's for a reason. I guess with Shamrock out of the picture now, so now they want to hype up Gunko as being possibly the child of Emu. Listen, as I said this before, and I'll say it again, nothing's off the table and nothing's off limits when it comes to Oda and the final saga. But when we get traits and hints of Gunko's personality like this, does Gunko resemble a child, someone that should be a child of Emu? Because here I don't see it. There are people that are going with that theory. With situations like this, it's hard to feel that way. But yeah, I like that Oda's, like, giving us hints of her personality. We got this when Killingham and St. Sommers were first introduced, and she turned away because St. Sommers appeared in his underwear, so she turned away embarrassed. So now here we are again, but she immediately gets serious because it says, Sommers, don't let your guard down because trouble's brewing. I saw a certain pirate ship anchored at the village, Emperor Straw Hat Luffy, and I like the fact she addressed Luffy as Emperor. So that's respect to Luffy, putting respect on the fact that Luffy's a Yonko. Not what Rob Lucci did, like an idiot, and completely underestimated Luffy getting his ass kicked. So, and we see the dilemma right away because we see the children walking up and you see the fire, so they're immediately about to walk into their doom. And the dialogue of St. Sommers is really sadistic because he's like, if they die, we'll just have a next batch of kids to march over. That is really sadistic. So what turned into a simple kidnapping mission has turned into something really much more sadistic because they can literally walk into the fire and die. So that's not going to happen. But so they're going to need to find some salt ASAP. And I'm actually thinking, like, where's Colin at? The kid of Ripley and Scopper? We haven't seen him, so he may play a role as well because he's the rebel and he may end up doing something to help them out. They're not putting out the fire, so that just enables Jinbei and Ko to put out the fire themselves. So of course this fire got started by good old Loki, who we got cut to in the underworld. It's pretty much at a stalemate with the monster trio and Haradine and his crew because Loki's pretty much literally on low health. He's about to drop, but he's actually trying to put a brave face on to like get them to free him before he passes out. And Zoro is the only one to notice this because he's stoic this whole sequence. He was that way in the previous chapter when Loki lost the attack. Everybody else was freaking out. Zoro didn't. I find it interesting. It's Gerd that's the first one to try and talk him out of it, but she was the first to try and reason with him. And Loki responds, "Oh, they'll be victims, all right, once the fire spreads. So you better let me go." And that's what he was doing to like reason with Haradine, to the point where Haradine was actually, he's like, "Okay, I get it. We'll let you go." Zoro calling him out says, "Haradine, don't fall for it. He's full of shit because he's about to pass out." And I'm so glad he didn't go into Gear 5th, nor did he use Gear 4, but he did use Gear 3rd because he was pretty much on low health. This pretty much did him in. So, oh shit, I guess this is it for me. He passes out. You got two instances where Gerd is like pulling the Helen Lovejoy from Simpsons act. It's like, think of the children. Just stop what you're doing. Think of the children. Then you got Zoro coaching Luffy. Are you going to take it easy on Loki? His wounds are about to open up anyway. So Luffy hits him with a gum balloon, KOs Loki, and then Zoro, as cold as the temperature in the underworld, pretty much says it's already at death's door. Just talking was all the strength he could muster. It was a nice try, but he was playing on. This is where Detective Zoro's on the case because he's probably looking for a place to like escape and pass out. But then Zoro's asking Luffy, "Hey, it's up to you. Do you want to treat him or do you want to croak? You want to let him croak?" He's in a dilemma because he wants to finish business with him, but he's covered in blood. So Luffy has a pretty good character moment here, I think. Like it's going to go over the radar. So Luffy says, "Haradine, I have a request. I don't care what kind of person he is, but I can't watch him die." But then instead of getting like Gerd to make a decision about treating him, it already cuts to him being treated by Gerd and company. So I'm guessing this is going to be a situation where the anime fills in the blanks, because this is literally tailor-made for that type of situation. And first thing to note is like Loki's been strapped with Kuroseki chains. Like he ain't moving anywhere regardless. So then Gerd pretty much points out, if we're serious about treating his wounds, we need to bring him up with us because he shouldn't be in a place like this. Looks like there's going to be some time because first off, Gerd's asked how long until he makes a full recovery. Gerd says several months at least. Well, that ain't happening because they don't have months to wait, especially with the Holy Knights and doing what they're doing. With his helmet knocked off, Luffy's taking a good look and literally sitting on the black horns, the mark of the ancient giants, which I'm glad that Haradine points that out. But Luffy's like, this horns are the real deal. After seeing the portrait of King Harold, this triggers a flashback for Haradine. It seems like he valued them both as equals, despite the fact that they had different mothers. So this is what I mean by there's certain instances where you gotta pay attention where something doesn't meet the eye here. Never mind the ending of this chapter. This has been, I've documented this from the get-go. Like there's something amiss here. We need context and confirmation here. This like triggers like Hardy to the max. He's literally about to take an axe and like just kill him there and then. Go ahead and do it. You really like the rest and actually think I killed our father in cold blood. You don't really buy that, do you? And that's how the chapter ends, with both panels of Loki and Haradine. That's how the chapter ends. This ain't shocking to me, but I'm glad Oda decided to like highlight this, because now we're getting closer to a flashback, which we need, which is going to lead to the resolution, which Oda needs to tie that up to get us into the next phase of Elbaph, which I'll get into, considering we got a visual that dropped literally on the 19th. So Hardy's going to have a decision to make about whether or not he and his brother team up. Again, I said this over and over again, the resolution is not going to come from Luffy versus Loki, and nor should it. So I don't know where this narrative came in, that Luffy had to be in gear 5th to fight Loki to have the resolution. No, it needs to be within. We've been hearing on end about the different ideologies that's going on in Elbaph, from the past, the present, and now the future. But this is going to need a much needed flashback and really some explanations on King Harold and whether or not where his loyalties lie. But yeah, there's definitely more context to this, and now I'm just glad Oda literally put it out in the open, so now we can get to the next phase. The visual, I do have a question about Killingham and his abilities, since they're pretty much borderline on bringing the children's nightmares to life in the form of those creatures. Since salt is pretty much the remedy to like wake up the Saint Sommers. We saw this in this chapter. So if they get the salt and they wake up the children, is that gonna put an end to the nightmares? And if it does that get rid of the monsters? Because I'm thinking now this is maybe where the Straw Hats kick in and what their role's going to be, because there's only 3 Holy Knights, so I don't see the way things are teasing right now, especially with the way that the last chapter ended. All signs point to Luffy going up against Gunko, or at least some type of confrontation, especially with what Gunko said in this chapter. So she's definitely going to have an interaction with Luffy, and possibly see Luffy in the form of Gear 5th, because obviously we saw Gunko say she fears Nika without any hesitation. So, and that's another reason why people came up with the theory, maybe she's the child of Emu, but with what we got, with character traits like I said we've gotten, I don't see that being the case. But I could definitely see Gunko having some type of interaction with Luffy. It kind of has to happen, but is that going to be the end all be all of the arc? With only 3 Holy Knights, and don't get me wrong, unless they're broken monsters, but with what's been teased already, like Shamrock dipped to take care of what was going on Marajo, whether or not that has anything to do with the revolutionaries, which doesn't make any sense because they already left Marajo after succeeding in their mission. Why would they go back? So I don't think they're doing anything to Marajo right now. After Saba he survived and escaped Emu twice, so I doubt they're going to risk that a 3rd time. So that's not going to be the destination for the Revolutionary Army. Another possibility is what happens with the Blackbeard Pirates, because we did see Luffy perhaps making a move involving the Revolutionaries. We don't know what that is fully, but we're going to find out. We don't know what Teaches has on the agenda, but with what Kararu is about to say as far as the information about the ancient weapons, we know he's going to go for Shirahoshi at the first chance. He's probably going to kill King Neptune and kidnap Shirahoshi. So as far as Teach is concerned, we don't know. I'll get back to Teach, because these events could bleed into another. But we got the visual a month ago about the revolutionaries, and a lot of people want to link this to possibly them showing up in Elbaph. We still don't know. It's a possibility. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, this was released, it literally started circulating on the 19th this week. The visual, 3, 2, 1, this visual here of Cross Guild, nothing like this is released without a reason. So if this is any indication of Oda hinting at Cross Guild showing up in Elbaph, this could lead to a lot of things. Now, immediately the first thing that comes to mind is Straw Hats versus Cross Guild. But we also found out that Cross Guild are being pursued by the 3 remaining Seraphim. Doflamingo, Moria, and Crocodile. We know this. Either one or two things are going to come from this. One, either the Seraphim are going to pursue Crossguild, making their way to that, and they get intercepted by the Seraphim. And by the way, I don't see why Oda wouldn't bring all the Seraphim together if that's the case. If they're all coming to Elbaph, because this is leading to a full scale war. I'm telling you right now, if this is where we're leading, so it's either Crossguild are being pursued by the Seraphim on the way to Elbaph, or this would be absolutely hilarious. And I said this over and over because the people are giving Mihawk and Crocodile shit because they were skeptical about going up against 3 other Yonko and their crew members, but people want to call them out for it. This would be absolutely hilarious because a lot of people want to see Crossguild versus the 3 remaining Seraphim like Doflamingo, Cracker Boy, and Gecko Moria in Seraphim format. So it would be absolutely hilarious if they got off screen and killed, literally off screen, by Crocodile and Mihawk. Let's be real, Boogie's not doing that. So that'd be absolutely hilarious if that was the case. But I said this last year when covering the Egged Island arc, like, Oda can't do this with Elbaph because it's a different situation. We didn't know what to expect without Egged Island. Like, with Elbaph, we've been like waiting so long, a lot longer than we did for Wano. So I don't see Oda going back and forth. He's not going to have time to like harp on multiple events one after the other. He's going to have to find a way to tie up some of these loose ends. With this visual of the revolutionaries that we got a month ago, a lot of people seem to think the revolutionaries are coming into Elbaph. That could be the case, and that's a very strong possibility. And you could tie up that loose end. I said this before. You have Kuma there, you have Robin there, and you have Luffy there. More importantly, you get the reunion with Luffy and Sabo, as well as Dragon and Luffy meeting for the first time face to face. So this could lead to 1 or 2 fights for Robin. This is definitely going to be her arc to shine. So I don't mind that at all. If she meets up with Dragon, that's cool. If she meets up with Sabo and Koala again, that's cool. But this could go much deeper than that. So that's just one aspect of where this could go with the revolutionaries and that visual, if that's where this is leading. Now with Crossguild, you see the visual, right? And you see Alvida at the top, and immediately people are comparing like, oh, her to Robin because you got the Robin pose. So a lot of people are running with that, oh, Alvida's going to face Robin. No. First off, just because he has a Robin pose, that could just be a red herring. Secondly, if that is a fight, Alvida's getting stomped by Robin. I'm sorry, that's not even a joke. It makes more sense for Nami to go up against Alvida. And when you have Crossguild in full, doesn't it make sense to have an interaction with Crocodile than it does Alvida for Robin? If we're talking about character moments here and potential fights, then doesn't that make more sense, narratively speaking? And I know a lot of people saying that's a mismatch. Well, I think Robin's going to get an upgrade. That's number 1. Number 2, is it? Plus, it'd do wonders for a character, especially after what happened at the end of Alabasta. That's assuming they face off against the Straw Hats if Crossguild show up. Now, I'm thinking another way here, and I'm thinking there's a possibility Crossguild and the Straw Hats end up teaming up against the world government because the Holy Knights are already there. I don't see the Holy Knights just being the only ones for representing the world government. I see Marines coming in, I see Seraphim coming in, and I also see Vice Admirals coming in because that was also teased. So I could absolutely see we got it on Marine Forward with Crocodile teaming up with Luffy. Why not have Crocodile and Robin team up one last time to take on a common enemy? So that would be kind of nice, and it would do wonders. Again, it would be great for Robin's character to overcome that fear and overcome that hurdle. We could even see Mihawk and Zoro team up, because I don't see them fighting, at least not yet. Like I said, they could fight by the end, because obviously they're going to go for the final Raw Poneglyph, but let me know what you guys think about that. But yeah, there was a visual for the Crossguild now. Do they show up on Elbaph? If that's the case, do they face the Straw Hats? Or in my opinion, which I think would be better, do they team up with the Straw Hats against the world government? And then, never mind the fact that we got the visuals of the Revolutionary Army, if they also join in the fun on Elbaph, and that's assuming they do, because we don't know where these roads lie, but like I said, Oda can find a way to have these interact, and if the Revolutionaries do show up on the Elbaph, and we do get a reunion involving Sabo and Luffy, I'm telling you right now, Vivi has to be in the mix because of what King Cobra said to Sabo about giving the message to Luffy, unless, and this is just me thinking out loud, is there a possibility that Vivi may show up with the revolutionaries and she already has this information about the fact that she's a D and she's going to pass that on to Luffy? Maybe. But that has to play a role at some point. You could tie that up if you want. I'm just like losing my mind thinking about this, but could you imagine in one arc, and remember we had the Robin and Soul reunion end last year. Can you imagine if we get with a reunion involving Dragon and Luffy plus Sabo, as well as Vivi reuniting with Luffy and the Straw Hats? Can you imagine? Never mind the fact that Bonnie and Kuma are going to have a moment too. Jesus. Wait, this is the events that could happen if this is what these two visuals are representing, and there's a possibility of both groups showing up on Elbaph, because there has to be a shot in the arm, because we're already like Oda's already blitzed his way through the beginning stages of Elbaph, so what else can he do? Like I said, with the resolution coming in with Loki and Haradine, like are the Holy Knights going to be the end all be all as far as like being the main threat? But if Cross Guild show up, and there's a possibility that Teach could also show up as well, with after capturing Shirahoshi, because he's going to be gunning for the copies of the Rob Poneglyph if they're on Elbaph. That's what's going to lead all these groups together. Again, we're assuming that the revolutionaries show up on Elbaph, but if you're going to do it, now's the time, because Oda has to play his hand with Cross Guild and the revolutionaries, so why not? But again, this is just me fantasy booking. None of this what I mentioned could happen, but just imagine if it did. As far as the chapter goes, yeah, I really like what Oda did with not only gearing us up for a much needed flashback involving Loki and King Harold, but also he gave us more explanation on the abilities of Killingham, as well as revealing what Sommers' abilities are. We already know what Gunko's all about, and Gunko continues to be the best character out of the bunch. Let me know what you guys think down below. I thought it was a decent chapter to come back to, but again, there's going to be a lot of takeaway from this visual. What do you think it could mean? Let me know in the comments below. That's going to do it for you guys. You guys know what to do. If you enjoyed this review, hit that thumbs up. I appreciate that. Subscribe to channel for more One Piece, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.